So with BlizzCon only being a few days away, we are pretty close to seeing a pretty significant part of the future of Diablo 4. So in this video, I want to go over everything we could expect to see at BlizzCon and a lot of the more specific information I would like to see. And I think it's best to start off with what I think has a very high likelihood of being shown off at BlizzCon. And there's two different times at BlizzCon where Diablo 4 related things are going to be shown. And first, on November 3rd, which is the first day of BlizzCon, at 11 a.m. is the opening ceremony, which is 2.5 hours. And usually at the opening ceremony is where the big reveals would be shown off. So cinematics for new WoW expansions, any new games they may have, or expansions or trailers or cinematics for any of the different games. And most likely, this is where we would be getting any new reveals for Diablo 4. So expansions or seasons or anything like that with trailers or cinematics would most likely be shown off at the opening ceremony. And I do think we will be getting a reveal of season 3, or at least a trailer reveal, and then we'll also be getting probably a trailer or a cinematic reveal of the first expansion. So we'll probably get a name, we'll probably get some base story elements, and we'll probably be able to glean some information on some of the new systems and probably the new class of the expansion. But then all of the deep dive information will be on the second day, which is November 4th at 2:30 p.m. We have a Diablo 4 campfire chat, and this is currently slated to be 2 hours and 15 minutes. Now, I will say there are some gaps in both days of BlizzCon, and in previous BlizzCons, if there were big sections of times that weren't accounted for, sometimes they could just be that panel being really long, or sometimes it would be something else would actually be also filling that time, which is something they didn't want to announce until BlizzCon. So for instance, there's the possibility of Blizzard's survival game that's been in development for quite a long time. There's a possibility of that being revealed at BlizzCon, and then there's also the possibility that there could be another panel going more in depth with that game that they obviously wouldn't want to show on the schedule, but it would take part in one of those longer time frames. So there's a possibility that the Diablo 4 campfire chat is not 2 hours and 15 minutes, but because of how long our Diablo 4 campfire chats usually are, there's still the possibility that it's legitimately just that long. And I think from looking at the BlizzCon schedule and looking at a bunch of information we've gotten previous to BlizzCon, I think it's a really good possibility that we'll be getting the reveal of season 3, whether it be just through like a gameplay trailer like we got with season 2, or whether it be more of a deep dive into a lot of the content. I think we'll be getting a trailer or probably a pretty high budget cinematic for the first expansion for Diablo 4. Also check out one of my previous videos where we went over a bunch of leaks that could possibly be what the next expansion will be. And then I also think we're going to be getting our first Diablo 4 roadmap, because that was directly hinted to at one of the most recent developer live streams where they were asked a question about a roadmap, and they specifically mentioned to tune in at BlizzCon. So I think a roadmap is pretty much guaranteed. I think at least a season 3 trailer is pretty much guaranteed, and I think it's pretty much guaranteed that we're getting an expansion reveal as well. And as mentioned, the season 3 and expansion reveal will be in the opening ceremony, and then we'll most likely learn about the roadmap in the campfire chat at day 2. But for the rest of the time for the campfire chat, it's actually a bit harder to try to theorize what's going to be in that. And if I had to make my most educated guess, I would have to say they're probably going to show leaderboards and whatever new endgame system is coming with leaderboards for season 3, because this is already content that's been announced. We know we're getting leaderboards with season 3, and we know they're adding in a new endgame system that's specifically tied to those leaderboards, because they didn't think the Nightmare Dungeons were something that would fit in with leaderboards. Personally, I think it may be some type of Greater Rift system. It would make sense. It's something from Diablo 3, something a lot of people like, and it's something that would generally be a bit easier to make, and something that they know already works well with leaderboards. And if I'd have to guess, they probably don't want to go super in depth with everything coming with season 3, as it'll still be pretty early on into season 2 when BlizzCon happens. So they'll probably just want to go over a little bit of the new stuff coming with season 3, and then there probably will be some time to go over some of the stuff coming with the expansion. Now, in a similar way to season 3, they probably don't want to go super in depth with a lot of the new expansion content or features. We may get a general top-down view of a lot of the new systems or content content coming with the expansion. But if I would have to guess, I would say a big portion is probably going to be dedicated to whatever the new class is going to be. Because I also think it's basically a guarantee that the first expansion is going to have a new class. So they'll probably go over a bunch of like art, class design, they'll probably show off some new skills. And if all of this ends up being true, where a new expansion is revealed, I also think that there's probably a pretty good chance that the demo that will be playable at BlizzCon would probably be an early demo of the new class. Because usually for most games at BlizzCon, they want some type of demo. Usually for WoW, they'll have a demo of like a new zone or something new for the new expansion. For Hearthstone, you'll usually have a demo of the new expansion as well. For Overwatch, they'll usually show off like a new character and you'll be able to go play some games with a new character. And it would make complete sense that for Diablo, you would get to play an early version of the new class coming with the expansion. And since this seems to be tradition for Campfire Chats, I would be very surprised if the D4 devs didn't go over some big quality of life and balance changes coming to the future of Diablo 4. Like one of the most recent leaks was that we're basically getting the stash size doubled up to 500 slots in your stash. If that's going to be the case, and whether it comes to season 3 or the first expansion, that's probably something else they would go over in the Campfire Chat as well. So just to go back over, if all of this ends up being true, which I think a lot of this content has a pretty good chance of being revealed, I would say there's going to be a pretty big part going over the roadmap. There's going to be a decent part going over some of the new stuff coming with season 3. There's going to be another chunk going over some of the new stuff with the new expansion, probably focus on the new class, and then they'll probably throw in some looks at future quality of life and potentially some balance changes coming to season 3 and with the expansion. Now, the main things I want to see is basically just new endgame content. I know a big thing a lot of people want to see is an itemization overhaul, and that may happen with the expansion, but I would probably say that that's going to be a more gradual thing, both by the developers just changing up current itemization in the game and then just adding more itemization, adding more stats, and then adding more systems on top of that. That's going to generally help itemization. I don't think this is going to be one big overhaul. I think it's probably just going to be gradual changes and additions over time. So the main thing I want to see at BlizzCon is just new endgame content, new things to do, more reasons to continue gearing and continue playing after you get very high level and after you hit level 100, and then a new class. A new class is always going to be super cool and will always give you a new reason to play, even if itemization is still bad. And a primary thing I want with this new endgame content is wholly new endgame systems. So whether that be raids or some roguelike system or whatever's coming with leaderboards, probably like rifts or greater rifts, just new endgame systems that give us something completely different to do. That's the primary things I want shown off at BlizzCon. But that's all I want to go over. This is all the stuff I think is going to be shown off at BlizzCon for Diablo 4. So thanks for watching.